All right, let's get your plates rolling. Go ahead and gently remove your stickers from the sheet, and we're going to place them on your plate and start to paint your winner plate. All right, we're going to do placement. It's really up to you where you want to place it. You can do center, off to the side. I chose to do the tree a little off to the side. The snowflake I centered. You can certainly off-center the snowflake. You can just do part of the snowflake if you want. Whatever you think would be good and whatever you like the most, that's what you should do. Just make sure you're pushing them down gently. We don't want to get a lot of oil on our bisque, but you want to make sure that that is attached. Sometimes I'll even take the back of my fingernail and just kind of push down a little bit. You don't want it like this, just kind of rubbing that down a little. You don't need it super, super tight, but you do want it to stick so that the brush doesn't go underneath the little edges as you paint for the first time. When I first start, I will paint over the vinyl sticker first, just a little bit. Nice light coat, working from the center and out for the snowflake, or a gentle side to side like this for the tree. You just want to put a small coat over it. This kind of helps it seal it. It helps it stick, and you can be a little more liberal with your paint after this is done and dried. All right, then we're just gonna start painting. Make sure that paintbrush is super full of glaze. You want it nice and plump. And I go side to side, so I'll start with one direction, and then once that dries, I will move it in the second direction. I do want you to do your edges as well while you're doing this. I don't want 3 coats, but we're gonna do 2. So do 2 coats of your top paint in 2 different directions, and then just kind of gently go around and work on your edges a little bit. You don't want this super thick, but you do want to get a coat on there. All right, now we're going to go over this one more time. You can see I'm kind of removing also. We've done 3 coats of paint, and we're going to, or I'm sorry, 2 coats, and we're going to go ahead and do our 3rd coat. I removed that paint just so it doesn't get super heavy and clumpy on top of that sticker. And we're gonna do a 2nd coat on the edges. Oftentimes we find the edges do not get glazed enough. So we just wanna make sure we give them a little attention. This is also a good time after your 3rd coat on the front to kind of clean up those edges like I'm doing here and just kind of smooth those together and round them out. All right, you're gonna grab a pin or even a little toothpick works as well, but a pin I find is the easiest. We're just gonna simply, not at the edge of the vinyl because you can damage the edge of your painting, but just kind of inside. You'll find that when this is still damp like this thing is going to come right off. So you just want to start it with the pin, get it up and off of there, and then, excuse me, and then start working that off. It may break while you do this. That's okay. It's going to tear sometimes. It's all right. You see those little pieces of paint that are brushing off. Resist the urge to brush that with your hand. You can spread the paint then if it's still damp. So just ignore it. We're going to take care of that in a minute. And go ahead and peel off your stickers. Now, both of them, you see we've peeled them off, and we're going to take a clean, dry brush, and we're going to very lightly and gently rub along the edges of where you peeled your vinyl sticker. And you see that's going to remove all those little tiny pieces and without doing any damage. So I'll do it gently in a circular motion and back and forth, and just make sure that I have all those little edges brushed off. right, we're gonna flip our plates over. I paint with my fist rounded like this to keep the edges off, because you can chip the edges when they're not fully dry. Even when they're just dry to the touch, sometimes they get chipped if you rub them too much on a surface. So I will make a fist and paint on the top of my fist. You don't have to do this. You can certainly put your piece down on the table. Just be really careful with it when you do that. And we're gonna do 3 coats. So I usually start in the center when there's a plate like this with a recessed middle. And I will go in. The one place you want to be really careful about are these little corners in here on the inside. You don't want that paint to get too thick. So while you certainly want even coverage for a nice solid coat of glaze color, you don't want to clump it up in those corners. So as you see, I'm kind of going back over and cleaning up any pooling that may happen in those corners that will cause us problems later on. After the first 2 coats, I go over the edge again. So this is basically a 3rd coat along our edge of our plate. You can see how I'm kind of cleaning it up, and once you do a couple coats, it's all wet enough that it will blend together. Then you can take a pen or you can take a toothpick and go ahead and sign it in the back. This is called Sgraffito, and you can just go ahead and scratch your initials or your name or your message in there. This is a little bit wet, so you can see it's a little clumpy. Sorry, we're out of the, there we go, out of the camera, so you can see where it kind of clumped and chumped off there in the middle of my A. It was probably a little too wet when I did that, but you know, it's okay. Now you can see the edges here along the snowflake where some of that got pulled up. Now that's because the paint might have been a little too thick there. You see where I'm pointing out those edges. So what I'll do is I will go back and just add a little bit of paint with a small brush, or not. I mean, it's not perfect, and if you're not worried about it, you can leave it like that, but often I will go and add a little bit more. You're gonna take your toothpick again, and you're gonna slowly dip into the paint and make your snowflakes. Now I will just kind of spread these out evenly across the plate initially, and then you can always go back in and add more. So start with less, you can always add. So I'll do a couple on one side of the plate like this, then I'll move over to the other side of the plate and keep working until I find that I have what I want it to look like. I believe in the tree, I started to condense and make those little dots closer as you start to near the base of the tree. So they're more widespread in the sky. They start to get closer together as we get down below. But you can see here how I'm kind of adding all around the plate and just kind of making it random, but also even. And there's your finished plate. And there is your other finished plate. Don't worry about the snowflakes. Don't worry about sizes. They're all going to be all different sizes. That's what it's for. And here are your finished samples. Can't wait to see what you come up with. Have a fun time today painting your plates. And thank you for painting with the Prancing Pig.